Someone once said that the census of the Jewish people is smaller than the margin of error in the Chinese census. Here we are, such a tiny little nation, approximately 13 million Jews, but yet the impact we've had over the civilizations, over the millenniums, is incalculable. You know, we're now going through a census of the 2020 census. I'm sure you got it in the mail. But in this week's Parsha, we're also going through a census. The census of the Jewish people in the desert. And the Torah does the counting of each tribe individually, and then the collective counting of the entire Jewish nation. Now here's something interesting. Usually we talk about the 12 tribes of Israel. We call them the Yud Beis Shivatim. The word Shivatim loosely means tribes, the 12 tribes of Israel. What is the root of the word Shevet? Shevet in Hebrew means a branch. There was Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They were the core, they were the trunk of the tree. And they had Jacob had 12 sons, which are like the 12 tribes of Israel, the 12 Shvatim, the 12 branches that branched out of the original tree of Jacob, who came from Isaac, who came from Abraham. Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. But interestingly, in this week's Parsha, when it counts the tribes of Israel, it says, Limate, such and such, for the tribe of such and such. Every time it refers to one of the tribes, it doesn't use the word Shevet, which is the more common term, it uses the word Limate. Now, a mateh, as we all know, is also a branch, but it's a branch that's been turned into a staff. Throughout the book of Exodus, Moses used his staff. It keeps on saying, take your staff, kaches matcha, your staff. So the question is, why do we normally refer to the Jewish people and the tribes of Israel as the Shvatim, the branches which grew out of the tree, and suddenly when we do the census, the counting, we switch to the word limate, to the staffs. And we alternate between these two names very often. And I would like to share with you from the Radak two very profound answers that has great relevance to our lives. The first answer is that a branch is connected to the tree, which is connected to the roots, to the soil, to the life source. And therefore a branch is flexible, a branch is more soft and pliable, as opposed to a staff which is hard and rigid. So too, the Jewish people had two different stages of existence. There was the time when we were connected to our soil, to our source, to our roots. We lived in Jerusalem, we had a holy temple, we had high priests, we had Levites, times of the patriarchs, the matriarchs. We knew from where we came. We were connected like a limb of the body. The branch was connected to the source, and therefore there was moisture, there was life in the branch. However, throughout the long years of exile, we are like the branch which is disconnected, which becomes hard and becomes like a staff. But that strength of the Jewish people, because we've gone through so much and endured so much in exile, that made us more resilient and more tenacious and more powerful to be able to endure and overcome all of the challenges that we've had to endure. And so we say the Jewish people, when they're counted, should remember you're not just a shevet, that when you're connected to your source, you can remain a Jewish people. But even when you go through exile and you're disconnected from your homeland, and you're scattered throughout the world, and you may feel, I'm disconnected from my life source. How can I go on as a Jew? You should know that precisely is your strength. From there you will gain even greater strength. And even though you are 1/4% of the population of the world, and you may say, I'm one Jew in a big city, or I'm surrounded with an environment of many non-Jews, how will I maintain my Jewish identity? My connection to my heritage and to my past. And so the Torah says precisely, remember you are not just a shevet connected to its source, you are a mateh. You have the strength, the resilience of a Jew, that you, even though you are the smallest of all nations, as the census will bear out, your tiny little nation, as I said, The entire Jewish people are smaller than the margin of error in the Chinese census, yet you are a nation for renown and for praise and has a global impact on the world, past, present, and future. And therefore don't underestimate your inner power and strength. A second answer given by Radak is that what is the difference between a branch and a staff? A branch is beautiful. It's connected to a tree. It even has leaves on it. Sometimes there's even fruit growing from a branch. But a staff is something that you lean on. You use it to hold yourself up. And to be a Jew, as it says in this week's parsha, is that even when you do the census and you realize the Jewish people are 0.2% of the world, and you say, what difference do we make? And you say, no. You are a mateh, you are a staff. You are someone that people have to be able to lean on and rely on. You hold up your fellow man. You have to be a pillar of support in your community, in your family, in your surroundings. You have to be someone that says, come, you can lean on me. That is the definition of being a Jew. To have the strength of a staff and to be a support system for others, to be an ambassador of goodness, of light, of redemption for the world. That is the definition of a Jew. No matter which tribe you come from, remember, first and foremost, you are a matah. Others look to you and others will lean upon you. As we've gone through this coronavirus, we also feel disconnected from our source, from our synagogues, from our Jewish life perhaps. We feel isolated, but God willing, we will grow stronger from that. And surely we've seen throughout this experience that people have become pillars of support for others, said, come lean on me, I will help you get through this situation. And that's the real definition of being a Jew and being counted upon, not just counted in the census, but to be counted in a census means that you could be counted upon to be someone that others can find strength from and others could lean upon. I want to share with you an amazing true story. It's sad, but it has a powerful lesson. It just happened in the past few weeks. There's a family in Queens, an elderly couple. Their name is Moshe and Esther Walken. He's a rabbi, she's a rebbitzin, elderly couple, and they were put into quarantine, obviously because of their older age. They had to be away from everyone, from their children, from their grandchildren, from their friends, and they're living in isolation. One day, tragically, Esther got a call that one of her children, her beloved son, Rav Aaron Walken, who was also a rabbi in Queens, succumbed and lost his life in his battle with COVID-19. Esther was grief-stricken and she began to weep uncontrollably. But she had a big dilemma. Her husband was also sick in bed, struggling and battling with COVID-19. And she knew that if she would tell her husband, he wouldn't have the strength to fight the illness. And so she decided, and she was determined, and she told her family that no one should tell her husband until he gets better. And for the next week, she observed Shiva in her home alone and would cry and not tell her husband that their beloved son, Rabbi Aaron, passed away at the age of 54. And he would ask his wife, Esther, why are you crying so much? And she said, what do you mean? You're sick in bed, there's COVID. And he said, don't you have trust in God? Don't you have emunah? Everything will be okay. I'll get better. There's no need to cry. But she couldn't stop crying. And she would walk the hallways of her home crying, and he would try to reassure her that everything would be okay, not understanding why she was crying so bitterly. One day he called her over and said, I don't understand. I know you so many years. You've always had so much faith in God. Where is your faith? He said, come, let's talk about faith. And he started to talk to her about what the rabbis say, that everything from God is good, and that God loves us more than an only child. And she said to her husband, can I write down what you're teaching me? And he said, sure. And he would lay in his bed and talk to her about faith in God, and she would take notes of everything he was telling her. And every day she would sit by his bed and he would give her lessons from the traditions of the rabbis, of the Talmud, and the teachings of the sages about the importance of trust and faith in God. And about 2.5 weeks after they had lost their beloved child, she had already concluded the Shiva. They were sitting and learning about faith in God when she turned to him and said, you talk about faith in God. What about if, God forbid, God takes away someone's child from them? Could they still have faith in God? And he looked at her and said, obviously that's one of the greatest tests in life. No one should ever know from such a tragedy. But yes, when God told Abraham to take his only son Isaac and offer him as a binding, Abraham accepted it and went to the Akedah. And we learn from this the idea of faith, even when you're tested with your child. And she started to cry and started to turn around and started to leave the room. As she was about to leave the room, Rabbi Moshe, walking from his bed, called to his wife and said to his wife, Esther, which son? And Esther said to her husband, what do you mean? And he said, which one of our children did God take from us? And she turned around and started to cry and said, Rav Aaron, our son Aaron. Rabbi Moshe Walken got out of his bed, sat down on the floor, tore his clothing, took off his shoes, and began to cry uncontrollably. And she said to him, my beloved husband, Rabbi Moshe, you just told me that even if God takes away your child, you must have faith. And he said to her, I cry for my son. I miss him. I love him so much. But I don't have any questions. I have no complaints against God. But I still weep because I love him so much. This is a story of tremendous faith. Faith that only very righteous people can achieve, perhaps. However, it teaches us a lesson of what it means to support one another. And sometimes when you're supporting others, you're really supporting yourself. We shouldn't know from such sadness or tragedies. May we only experience good health and happiness. May we see a refuah shalema for all those who are ill. But let us emerge from this pandemic understanding the message of being a mateh, that each and every one of us has to muster more resilience, more strength, more inner courage to live with firmness and with power and with determination and perseverance. At the same time, remember, you are a mateh. You are a tribe, but you are a mateh, you are a staff. Be a support system for those around you. Invite others to lean on you and hold up those who are weak and vulnerable. And then you will fulfill your destiny as a Jew in this world. Have a wonderful day.